How I track my farm stand income week by week and handle taxes without losing my mind. I have been running my little farm stand for 3 seasons now, and I finally feel like I have a system that works for both my sanity and the IRS. If you are selling tomatoes out of a wagon or slinging sourdough at a roadside booth, you already know the money feels great, but the paperwork feels overwhelming. Let me walk you through how I break down my weekly income and what tax tips I have learned the hard way, so your farm stand stays profitable and legal. Why weekly breakdowns beat monthly guesswork? I used to wait until the end of the month to add everything up, and I hated it. My numbers were always off because I forgot that rainy Wednesday when I only sold 2 jars of honey. Tracking weekly keeps things fresh in my mind and helps me spot trends fast. When I see that my second week of June doubled my first week of May, I know to plant more cucumbers next year. Weekly tracking also makes tax time less scary because I am not staring at 12 months of receipts in a shoebox. Here is how my week usually flows. I open Friday through Sunday, and I count the cash drawer every single night before I leave. I write down the total sales for the day in a small notebook I keep in my apron pocket. At home on Sunday night, I pour a cup of tea and move those daily numbers into a simple spreadsheet on my laptop. I separate cash sales, card sales, Venmo payments, and IOUs from my neighbor who always pays me in eggs on Monday. My Friday to Sunday numbers and what they teach me. Fridays are my slow start. People are just getting off work and they grab a dozen eggs or a bouquet of flowers on their way home. I average about $120 on a Good Friday, but if it rains, that can drop to $40 fast. I learned to bring less perishable inventory on Fridays, so I am not eating my profits later. Saturdays are the heavy hitters. The farmers market crowd swings by and families make it a morning outing. My Saturday sales usually land between $350 and $600, depending on what is in season. Strawberries in May and sweet corn in August are my peak weekends. I track which items sell out by noon so I know what to harvest more of next week. Sundays are my wild card. Sometimes I hit $400 because the church crowd comes through after service. Other times it is $90 and I spend the afternoon reading in the lawn chair. I do not stress about Sunday. I use it to test new products like herb bundles or zucchini bread. If they sell, I add them to Saturday. If they flop, I feed them to my chickens and call it research. When I add up Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, I get my weekly gross income. My average summer week is around $750. My worst week ever was $210 during a 3-day downpour. My best week was $1,120 the weekend before 4th of July. Seeing those highs and lows weekly keeps me from panicking. Farming is seasonal and my stand income should be too. The expenses I track. Every single week revenue feels good, but profit is what pays for seed and my kids' soccer cleats. I track expenses the same night I track income so I do not forget. I start with cost of goods. That means seed, soil, compost jars for jam, and the flour for bread. I log what I actually used that week, not what I bought in bulk. In March, if I used 2 pounds of sugar for strawberry jam, I write down the cost of 2 pounds, even though I bought a 25-pound bag. Then I track my flat costs. My county farm stand permit was $75 for the year, so I divide that by the 20 weeks I am open and log $3.75 each week. Same with my square card reader fee and the canopy I replaced last spring. Breaking big costs into weekly chunks makes my profit numbers honest. Mileage is the one I used to ignore and it cost me. Driving to town for canning lids or to the feed store adds up. I keep a little mileage log in my truck, and every Sunday I jot the total miles for farm stand trips. The IRS mileage rate for 2026 is generous, and it becomes a real deduction. Tax tips. I wish someone told me in year one, I am not an accountant, but I have paid for enough tax appointments to share what actually helps. First, understand that your farm stand is a business in the eyes of the IRS once you are trying to make a profit. That means you file a Schedule F if you are selling things you grew or raised, and a Schedule C if you are selling mostly value-added products like pies or crafts. I do both, so my tax guy files a Schedule F with a Schedule C attached. Talk to a pro in your state because the line gets blurry fast. Second, save 25 to 30% of every single week's profit for taxes. I have a separate savings account nicknamed Uncle Sam, and I transfer money every Monday morning. The weeks I forget are the quarters I scramble. Self-employment tax is real, and it does not care that your well pump broke in July. Third, your state probably requires sales tax on some items, but not others. In my state, vegetables and eggs are exempt, but cut flower bouquets and jam are taxable. I printed the list from my Department of Revenue and taped it to my cash box. I use two different buttons on my card reader, so the system tracks taxable sales for me. Every Sunday I write the sales tax, I collect it on a sticky note and stash it in an envelope. I pay it quarterly online, and I never spend that money by accident. Fourth, the home office deduction can apply even if your office is a kitchen table. I measure the square footage of my canning kitchen and my packaging corner in the barn. That percentage of my electric bill, internet, and home insurance becomes a business expense. Take photos and keep a diagram. If you get audited, you want to show your work. Fifth, hire your kids if you have them and the work is real. My 12-year-old runs the change box and restocks the egg cooler. I pay her a reasonable wage, and it is deductible for me and tax-free for her up to the standard deduction. She puts it in her college fund, and she learns how a small business runs. The IRS likes good records, so I have her sign a timesheet every week. How I stay ahead of quarterly estimated taxes. Because my income is seasonal, I do not pay equal quarters. The IRS lets you annualize your income, which means you pay more in the quarters you actually earn more. I use the worksheet in the 1040 ES package, but honestly, I just hand my weekly totals to my accountant in June and September, and she tells me what to send. The key is having weekly totals ready. If you wait until the deadline, you will guess, and you will guess wrong. A few subjective lessons I have learned. Cash is king, but it is also the easiest to miscount. I round down when I'm not sure, and I consider any extra a happy surprise in January. People love a story, so I write a little chalkboard note about what is new that week. It does not change my taxes, but it changes my income. The week I wrote that, the peaches were picked by my daughter at 6 a.m. I sold out by 10. Burnout is a business expense you cannot deduct. If I do not take a weekend off in August, I get cranky, and my customers notice. I plan for one $0 week, and I budget for it. Finally, keep your records simple enough, checkouts, and that you will actually do them. A fancy app is useless if you never open it. My notebook and spreadsheet system takes 15 minutes every Sunday. That is less time than I spend weeding one row of beans. The bottom line for your farm. Stan Weekly Income Tracking turned my hobby into a business that pays for itself. It shows me what crops are worth the space and what weekends to expect a rush. Pair that with basic tax habits like saving for self-employment, tax tracking, mileage, and knowing your sales tax rules, and you will sleep better in April. Your numbers will look different than mine, and that is the point. Start tracking this weekend. Write down what you sold, what you spent, and what you learned. Do it again next weekend. By the end of the season, you will have a story told in dollars and a tax return that does not make you sweat. If you have a tip that saved you money or a weekly tracking trick I should steal, let me know. We are all figuring this out one harvest at a time.